Or should I say, g'day, from the kitchen, folks, because today I'm going to have a go at making a eucalyptus flavoured cider. So here's my key ingredients. The star of the show, obviously, is apple juice from concentrate. This is a turbo cider. Check out the Facebook group Turbo Ciders for All if you want some inspiration. But this just contains apple juice from concentrate, 100%. Nothing nasty. Okay, now to get my eucalyptus flavours in, I'm using this Sumi Herba Eucalyptus pastels. Now, they say 89p a packet, but I went to Barry's Bargains in Concert, County Durham. 3 for £1. Ka-ching. I'm using a bit of pectolase to help clear my cider because this is likely to cause some haziness, so I'm hoping that that will help to break that down. I've got Browin yeast nutrient, and my yeast of choice is Crossmyloof Cider Yeast. I've got some Yorkshire spring water, 200 grams of brewing sugar just to push the ABV northwards, and let's begin with 4 tea bags. Tea bags in the pan. Let's make a pan of tea. I'm going to add about half a litre or so of water and heat on. Right, I'm going to leave this now to begin to boil and brew. So while the tea's boiling, I'm going to open the apple juice and I'm going to put 2 of the litres into the demijohn. So yeah, eucalyptus turbo cider. How did that one come about then? Well, I was camping next to this billabong and I got chatting to this jolly swagman, and it just made me really think that maybe I should do an Australian themed cider. Either that, or I've got some new subscribers from Australia, from the Australia Homebrew Facebook group. So, g'day. So yeah, so I thought, why not? Let's do something Australian. Let's have a look, let's have a think. What can I do? What's an Australian flavour? And obviously, eucalyptus was one of the things that you associate with Australia because of koala bears. So let's get one done. Let's see what it's like. Besides that, I've got a lot of Australian friends, and I actually used to live in Australia, believe it or not. In the mid-1990s, I worked for Vodafone in North Ryde, north of Sydney. I lived in Rozelle, I drank in Balmain, and I had a bloody good year. I've got 2 litres of apple juice in the pan. My tea is nearly at a boil. Let's have a look at these eucalyptus sweets. So, never heard of them before. Don't know what country they're from. With the accent, they look Eastern European in some sort. There's lots of different writing on the back. An absence of English. Let's try one. Oh, they're very soft. They're like, very delicious actually, eucalyptus flavoured jelly tots. Ripper. Right, I've set 6 of these aside, and I'm going to put 1 in each bottle when I bottle in alongside the priming sugar, just to sort of give that last boost of eucalyptus flavour in case it doesn't carry through strongly in the cider. I think it's safe to say that the tea is boiling. Just going to give it a little mash with a potato masher, and that will have extracted sufficient tannins. So I've added the tea bags because I want to get some tannins in my cider. It just gives it a bit more body, a bit more bite. I prefer it with them in. I've tried it with them in and with them out. It's divided opinion. Some people prefer them, some people don't. I think I prefer them in, which is why I do it. And these go to garden compost. Right, let the eucalyptus meet the tea. That's 1 packet in, and 2 packets, and 3 packets. And now it's a case of playing the waiting game, giving an occasional stir, and waiting for these to dissolve. Okay, I'm just going to give an occasional stir. And oh, that's interesting. That's gone like gravy. So I've found that pastels, fruit pastels and the like, have been a nightmare when I've tried to get them to dissolve in the past. I think these have just actually literally just gone to mush. Nothing. Wow. Right, I'm going to put the lid on for 5 minutes just to be on the safe side. And then I'll be back. Okay. 5 minutes is over. And they really have gone. There's nothing there. That's brilliant. I hope the flavour carries through. That's my only concern. Anyway, I now need to get the brew sugar in. So I'm going to turn the heat off, because the brew sugar dissolves it almost instantaneously when the water's hot. So I'll just tip that in. That's not going to take long. Yep, it feels buoyant. The sugar has definitely dissolved. I'm going to move this off the hot ring and put it on a cool one. And I'm now going to leave this for half an hour before adding it into the demijohn. Okay, it's been 30 minutes. I'm now going to pour my eucalyptus tea into the demijohn. It won't hurt the demijohn. It is still warm, if not hot, but there's already apple juice in there. And trust me, this is a warhorse. This is a 1970s thick glass demijohn from Boots. They were built to last. And that has gone in now, and that looks like beer wort, but wow, it really does smell like eucalyptus, which is a result. That's what I wanted. So now it's just a case of topping up with apple juice, and in this goes, nice and steady. Yeah, when I lived in Roselle, do you know what was funny? I used to see the guy that played Donald Fisher from Home and Away in the post office all the time. It was literally like almost every other day I'd see him. And he was a top guy. He'd always say like, "G'day" to you. Never knew me from Adam, but he recognised my face because he saw me regularly. It was pretty cool. He used to go, "All right, Flathead." I think that was his nickname on the show. Otherwise, I'd probably really offended him. Now, this isn't quite as full as I'd like it to be, but I don't want to open another litre of apple juice just for the top bit there. So I think I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of the ABV and put a bit more spring water in it. So I'm just going to add a little bit more, not too much. There we go. There's probably about, I don't know, another 200 mils gone in there. I'm just going to give this a little mix around. It's too warm for me to take the gravity, but I'm going to pour some out into the hydrometer jar, stick that in the fridge, and then carry on. And what goes into the hydrometer jar won't go back into the demijohn. I'll drink it. A bit in, not too much, that's enough. Right, let's get the dry ingredients in there, starting with pectolase, which will hopefully mean this won't be quite as cloudy at the end. No guarantees, but let's just see what happens. So I'm going to put 1 rounded teaspoonful in, and actually a second rounded teaspoonful in. I think it's going to need it. I've then got some Browin yeast nutrient, so I shall add, again, a nice rounded teaspoonful of that, and just a little bit more. Also, and then here's my Crossmyloof Cider Yeast. I've got half a sachet here, which is enough. That's about a teaspoonful equivalent. And that will do. Right, I'm just going to give this a nice stir around. I'm hoping that the relatively warm liquid, the high sugar content and the nutrient is going to provide the yeast with a smorgasbord of delights. Okay, so airlock in. Right, I've got the cider must down to 20 degrees. Let's take the gravity. Just losing a little bit, never mind. Yeah, this is going to be rocket fuel. So in which case, check out the Facebook group, Rocket Fuel Ciders for All. This is on 1.076, 1076. So cheers, just have a little sample. Really, really nice. The menthol quality of the eucalyptus is really apparent in this pre-fermentation. I really hope it carries through. Only time will tell. Okay, that's it for now. I will be back with an update once fermentation begins. So, fermentation is happening, albeit slowly. You can see that the yeast is on top now. It's starting to build something, which is the early stages of a krausen. This is 2 hours later, so it's a slow start. Let's have an update again in the morning. And here it is The next morning, this is about 13 hours later. As you can see, the krausen is nicely developed and the airlock is going just lovely. So unless anything dramatic happens, the next film that you'll see from me will be when fermentation is over. So I'll catch you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's my Eucalyptus Cider clearing night. Let's have a look at it. Okay, it's been in the demijohn for 3 weeks. Airlock activity is about 1 bubble every 80 or 90 seconds. Fermentation is effectively over, but it looks ugly. So I want to try and clear that. So it's bung out. And it's siphoning tube in. So I'm siphoning from that demijohn into a clean and sanitised demijohn, or as you Americans say, carboy. And I'm going to add Clear It wine findings from Young's. It's a bottle A, bottle B process. So I add a smidgen of bottle A, and then in an hour's time I add the same amount of bottle B. I am taking a gamble adding the wine findings because it could mean that it drags all the yeast which is in suspension to the bottom of the demijohn and I won't get a sparkle. So when I bottle it, that yeast won't appear in the bottles. I'll get no sparkle when the priming sugar goes in. That's the gamble. I either go for something that looks ugly, like that, or I go for something that's sparkling. I'm going for sparkling and I'm hoping I've just got to leave it a little bit longer for the sparkle to happen and take effect. It's all a big experiment, we'll see. And there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube. Tells me that's done. So I'm just going to give this a little swish around. Make sure that those findings have mixed in nicely. It smells nice. It smells like a little bit ginger beery, actually. Yeah, it's got an unusual smell, not unpleasant. Okay, I'm going to leave this for an hour and then I'm going to come back to it and add bottle B. Catch you then. Okay, 1 hour later and the findings have had 0 impact. So now it's time to add bottle B. So there's no need to do any siphoning this time, I'm just pouring it in. I'm going to pour half in, add findings B and then put the remainder in. It does have really quite a unique smell. Reminiscent, definitely reminiscent of like a ginger beer. Okay, so that's findings B, just gone in. Now let's add the rest of this. And in it goes. So once again, give it a shake around. I really would like it to clear it. It's just not a very cidery looking drink, is it? Whether it will or not remains to be seen. Right. Bung back in. I'll give you a progress update in a couple of days' time. Catch you then. Hey folks, Eucalyptus Cider update. Not looking great. Still looking ugly and sludgy. The findings have not had a great impact. We've just got this little bit down here in terms of extra sediment. It's been 3 days since I put them in. It should have had some impact by now. I've also had it outside overnight in 1 degree temperatures in an attempt to cold crash it, and that's not done anything either. So it's coming out again today into another demijohn with some more findings, and if that doesn't work this time, then I'm going to have a rethink. So it's exactly the same process as before in terms of bottle A and bottle B. I don't need to film it and show you again. That's what I'm going to do. I'll give you a progress update in a couple of days' time to see if it's had any further impact. So I'll catch you then. Hey folks, a Eucalyptus Cider update. Let's have a look at it. It's not looking too good, is it? it's still ugly. Now, daylight has fallen and it's not really revealing this, but here at the top bit it is slightly clearer than it is further down. This is one that will clear, but it's going to take months to do it. So I've decided that I have got months, so you know what, let's just do it. I'm going to clear it, but I'm also going to reinvent it and titivate it a little bit first. So my first job is to get it out of that demijohn, rack it off above the sediment line into this demijohn. So it's bung out, siphoning tube in, and the end of the tube is actually just there, just above the sediment line. I'm happy enough with that. So let's do it. And I want to get that into this clean demijohn. I don't know if you can hear the rain on the window outside, but if you can, that's Storm Barra. Well, there we go. Siphoning is over. I want to take the interim gravity of this brew now. So the original gravity was the brew before I added the yeast. The interim gravity is the brew as it is now. And the interim gravity is 1.002. It's still got that really unusual gingery smell actually. So it smells exactly the same as it did before. And now I'm going to do something a bit different, a bit crazy. I'm going to add some more apple juice. So the reason that I'm adding more apple juice is because I've got a lot of headspace here. This gives a danger of oxygenation taking place, and if that happens, then this could end up tasting like vinegar. So I'm going to add apple juice to fill this up. Some people put glass marbles or beads into the demijohns to take up the volume, but what I'm going to actually do is dilute the brew with apple juice and take another gravity which is called a restarting gravity, and then I'm going to put this away and I'm going to leave it to clear naturally. It will ferment a little bit more because there's sugar in this apple juice, and then I'll take a final gravity and then we'll know where we stand. And there's still a little bit of headspace there, but not too much. I'm okay with that. I'm just going to give it a little shake around. Okay, and now I'm going to take a restarting gravity. It won't be much different to the interim gravity, but it will be different. And in fact, it is on 1.012. So it's gone up by 10. Okay folks, before I go any further, I just want to do a little bit of maths with you to work out the gravity and the alcohol by volume, where we are so far and where we could be. So let's go through this together. So the gravity and the ABV up to racking. So the original gravity of the Eucalyptus cider was 1.076. The gravity that I took up to racking it into the other demijohn was 1.012. So to work out the alcohol by volume so far, it's the typical thing of original gravity minus what would normally be final gravity, but in this case is interim gravity, multiplied by 131.25. So 1.076 minus 1.012 equals 0.064. 0.064 multiplied by 131.25 equals 8.4%. So the cider right now at this point is 8.4%. However, I tipped it into the other demijohn and then I diluted it. I diluted it by adding apple juice. Now the demijohn holds 4.54 litres. I added 1 litre of apple juice and there was still some headspace in the top, and I'm going to guess there was about a half a litre of headspace. So let's just say, for argument's sakes, that I've got 4 litres of liquid in that demijohn, which means that if I've added a litre of apple juice, there must have been 3 litres of eucalyptus cider in there.
So by adding a litre to 3 litres, I've diluted what's there by a quarter, 25%, or I've added to it. I've added to the volume, the physical volume, by 25%. Okay, so that's now diluted down. So I need to consider how much I've increased the physical volume by, that 25% increase, and I now need to decrease the alcohol by volume by the same amount, 25% or a quarter. So if it was 8.4%, to work out what a quarter of 8.4 is, I simply divide it by 4, and that's 2.1. So I take 8.4% and I minus 2.1 from it, and now the ABV of the eucalyptus cider after adding the apple juice is 6.3%. The story doesn't finish here though, because now I've got to take the restarting gravity after I've added the apple juice, and the gravity has increased from 1.002 to 1.012. It's gone up 10 units. So the restarting gravity is 1.012. The final alcohol by volume will be the restarting gravity minus what is the final gravity when fermentation is done, finished, multiplied by 131.25. That will give me a certain percentage. I then need to add that percentage to the 6.3, which is already there. I'm probably going to end up with a cider that is between 7% and 8%. It might be slightly over 8%. Let's watch this space and see what happens. I hope you could stick with me through the maths there. I know it's not the easiest thing, but that's how you work it out. Now, let's get back to the brew.
I want to throw a caution to the wind and pour this back in, something I don't often do, but I want to try and fill as much headspace as possible on this. Then I'm going to put the bung and the airlock back in place, and what will happen now is I will get a tiny bit more fermentation as the sugars that are in that apple juice and the yeast which is still in suspension in this combine. There'll be a tiny bit more fermentation, the ABV will go up slightly, but importantly, to protect this, it will produce CO2, which will create a layer of CO2 on this, which will keep the oxygen out. Therefore, it won't end up like vinegar, fingers crossed. So I'm actually going to put this away now for however many months it takes. If it takes 6 months, if it takes a year, just fine. I'm going to put it away, and the next time that you see a film with this in will be whenever it's clear or just about clear. Okay, so I've labelled up the demijohn, and I'm now going to put it away, and I'm just going to leave it for as long as it takes to clear. So the next film from me will be who knows when. See you at some point, folks. Good afternoon from the kitchen, folks. You're not going to believe this. It's 2 years later. Oh, yes, it is. And here is that eucalyptus cider. Now, it's not cleared, but I can definitely see that particles have come out and stuck to the side of the demijohn. I've put it on here for demonstration purposes, so we've got a bit of sun shining through it and you can see the effect. Now, the sediment line, the actual sediment line, is only this bit here, and everything above it is stuck to the side of the demijohn. So I'm actually going to run through another clearing session with it today, and I'm going to clear it one more time with fine-ins. I can't imagine what it's like after 2 years, to be quite honest. It might be awful. I'm just going to have a quick sniff. It smells like very strong alcohol. In fact, it smelled like Stone's ginger wine. Okay, interesting. So just as before, it's bung out and it's siphoning tube in, and I'm just above the sediment line and I'm going to leave it there. I think the bottom of the tube is about there or thereabouts. Right, let's give it a good soak. Get that first bit of cloud out and then straight into demi. So you can clearly see that's just there, and it isn't really picking anything up either. That's good. Okay, I'm using Clear Wine Findings from Young's, two-step process, bottle A, bottle B. I need to put some bottle A in right now. So here we go. So the equivalent of what you might call a teaspoon. So that's going to stay in there for 1 hour. before I add Finance B, and then I want to rack it back into the other demijohn. But before I do that, I'm a little bit curious as to what this vintage might taste like. So let's have a little bit in this glass. And in the glass, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it's not clear, there's haze, but that's not bad, is it? Okay. So it's got a really unusual smell. It is a bit like ginger wine. It's completely flat, very dry. It's a bit harsh, actually. This one might be going in the air still. I'll carry on with the Finance anyway. I'm not sure. So there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube. So this part of the process is over. That comes out. That goes back in. So that's what's left in the demijohn. And you can see it really has stuck to the edges. Okay, I'm going to come back to you in 1 hour's time when it comes to adding Finance B. See you then. Well, an hour has passed, the sun has set. Do you want to have a look at that cider? Let's have a look. Oh, the Finance have done something. Now, previously nothing, this time something. I'm very happy with that. So I'm going to pour the cider back into the original demijohn, which I've thoroughly cleaned out. Now I could siphon it because there is a bit of a sediment in the bottom now, but the instructions for the Finance don't tell you to do that, so I'm just going to pour it. So here goes. I'm not sure how palatable I found this, but I'm curious with the age of it, you know, if it will actually sparkle. So I think I'm still going to go through the process of bottling and trying to get it to sparkle and all that, even though I've added Finance, which can often stop the sparkle. I'm just curious to see if I can get it to work. So anyway, it's time to add Finance B into the mix. Same amount as Finance A, and then we carry on with the big pour. Yeah, I'm going to do it all. Cloudy bits too. Let it all in. So this is what I've got. So I've got the airlock back in. It's now back in the original demijohn. I'm going to put it somewhere cool and see if it all begins to settle. I'll come back to you in about a week's time. See you then. Afternoon from the kitchen, folks. It's a week later. Let's get that eucalyptus cider bottled. Here it is on the windowsill, looking beautifully clear. And that is now ready to go out of there and into these. So before the cider goes into the bottle, I'm going to add a little bit of sugar, just standard household caster sugar, into each of the bottles. And this is just going to be for priming purposes. So if there is any yeast left in suspension in there, and there probably isn't, but if there is, it will find this sugar, it will have a nibble, and that will give the end product a sparkle. When I say have a nibble, technically it will smash it apart. The byproduct of that is CO2, and that is what builds up the pressure to give it a sparkle. I strongly suspect that this won't sparkle, and that's because I've added the Finance and the yeast will be dragged right down to the bottom and dragged out of it. So I'm probably wasting my time trying to make it sparkle. But if I do get a sparkle out of it, then great. There is a little bit still left in there. So it's bung out. Siphoning tube goes in, and you'll note that there's this little black clip at the top. That holds it in place. I can see the bottom is there, and I want it above the sediment line. I know from experience that there should be enough there for 5 750ml bottles. So that's what I'm aiming for. So I'm just above the sediment line. So the first bit that comes out will be a bit murky, but that first bit is going to go into my hydrometer tube. Let's get busy with the hopefully fizzy. And there we go. So a little bit of murk to begin with. It's cleared up nicely, and into my first bottle. Okay, that doesn't look too bad at all. It smells gingery. It really does smell like Stone's ginger wine. There's no eucalyptus in that smell at all. Quite strange. And into my last bottle. There's always that stress of, am I going to fill it or not? And there is always what's in the hydrometer tube, although that said, that will be a little bit murky. I'm not going to be far off whatever happens. And you can see that that is just nice. So I've got 5 bottles and I'm bunging with plastic bungs, which are currently softening in very hot water to make them more malleable. So I'm just going to demonstrate this with one of the bottles. You don't need to watch me do this 5 times. So I get my bung, shake the excess water off, push it into the bottle, like that. Sometimes it can hurt a bit and it's better to use a glove or a cloth. Then I hold that bung in place with a cage. So the bungs I just keep using over and over again. Bought them online. And the cages are recycled cages. Some of them have been bought, but most of them are donated or found. And use them about 3 times usually before they break. So because carbonation could happen, that's why I'm using a bung and a cage. This is one that's been done. I've got another 4 to do. You don't need to see me do that. I'll come back to you when they're done. So that's all 5 of my bottles done. I'm now just going to give them a little shower because they've got sticky residue on the outside. So whilst they're draining, let's work out what the final gravity is so we can work out what the alcohol by volume is. So the final gravity for this brew is exactly 1.000. Now the racked gravity was 1.012, so I need to work out what the alcohol volume is from 1.012 to 1.000, then add it to the 6.3%, which was what the ABV was at racking. So 1.012 minus 1.000 equals 0.012. Multiplied by 131.25 equals 1.575% plus 6.3, which is what it was, gives me a final alcohol by volume of 7.875%. I think we can just say 7.9%. I'm happy enough with that, so now I'm going to dry the bottles off and get the labels on them. So I've got my labels made up on my phone and they're going to print through this Fomemo Bluetooth printer, at least that's the plan. There you go. Okay, so not the easiest bottle to label because of the pattern on the glass, but I'll do it on the back of the bottle. Hopefully straight, but if it's not, I can live with it. There we go. There's one done. A few more to go. And there they are, like proud little soldiers. So I'm in the living room. It's got a south-facing conservatory and the temperature is currently 18.9 degrees. This is April. My eucalyptus cider is going to condition in here. It's right behind me on top of the drinks cabinet for the next 2 months. So I normally give it a month, but because of the very low chance of it being sparkling, I'm going to give it a bit longer to see if there's a minute amount of yeast that over time might develop some kind of fizz. So I'm going to come back to you in 2 months' time for the opening and tasting, and I'll see you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's my Eucalyptus Cider grand opening night. I have no idea what to expect with this one. I don't know whether it's going to have a sparkle. However, the bung has raised. That's a good sign. So it might have a sparkle. Hopefully it will have a sparkle. Hopefully it'll look good in the glass. I mean, it looks pretty nice in the bottle, I have to say. Hopefully it'll look good in the glass. Smell nice, but above all, taste nice. Now, this is old. this has been, you know, in production now for a couple of years or so, I cannot help but think that this might not be the best, but I don't know until I've tried it, okay? So I'll shut up and let's crack on with opening. So the cage is a bit sharp. I'll see if I can do it with my fingers. I think I can. Oh no, as usual, resorting to a fork with a sharp cage. Oh, the cage is broke anyway, so that's it. Binned. Right. Am I going to get a pop? Oh, I got a pop. That were a good pop as well. I mean, there was some welly behind that one. Oh, flipping heck. I'm feeling a bit more upbeat about this one now. Let's have a look what it looks like in the glass. Okay, so, you know, let's all appreciate the fact that there is a sparkle. It's got a bit of a foamy head. Right. Let's just get the thumbnail picture done. Now let's get down to the serious business. Right. It smells a bit funky. There's no eucalyptus smell to it. I mean, I don't know what's happened to those sweets to give it this smell, but it is more gingery than anything. I'm just hoping that gingeriness isn't from a harmful bacteria. Anyway, sod it, let's try it. Yeah! It'll put hairs on your chest, I'll tell you that much. Flipping heck. I don't know if I can drink it. Oh God, right, let's have another go. Yeah, it's somewhere in between ginger, cider and wet cardboard. Throw in some digestive biscuits as well. Yeah, I'm not so sure if this is a winner chicken dinner or a reserve for the air still brew, and I suspect that this might be going through the air still. Yeah, it's not my best brew I've ever made. It's one of the worst I've ever made, to be quite honest with you. But at least it's answered the question, can I make a eucalyptus cider from those sweets and apple juice from concentrate? And the answer is, no, I can't. Well, I can, but it's just not that nice, especially when it's like a few years old as well. Yeah, it's definitely a struggler, this. Yeah, I think we'll put we'll go. This is not a winner at all. But I'm going to upload the film anyway. I want you to see the net result of this because of the length of time it's been in production, and I just think it's quite good to see that not every brew turns out a success. Anyway, folks, as always, the process has been a pleasure. I've enjoyed making the film, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers, and I'll catch you on the next brew. Oh God, I've got to drink a bit for this bit. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.